Hello there. So today I'm going to talk a bit more about psychology, but I'm also going to talk about the third Lakshana. So that is the Lakshana of insubstantiality or no fixed self. So you can see how those two things go together, can't you? Psychology and no fixed self. So psychology has had a long-running argument. I don't think it'll ever get sorted out about nature and nurture, And of course, we are born with a temperament and we're born with personality traits, perhaps, that we have inherited from our mother and our father. And how much can we change? You know, what happens in childhood? So the way that we are nurtured, the way that we're looked after, the experiences that we have in our early life are known to have quite a significant effect. So there's this interplay between what we're actually born with and what develops. And psychology has given a lot of attention to that, and I don't think there are any positive answers about the extent to which one predominates over the other. So where does Buddhism come into this? What does Buddhism have to say? Well, Buddhism, you could say, is very an optimistic or empowering way of thinking, because it says that we can transform ourselves. We can transform every aspect of ourselves, and that behind all our conditioning is a Buddha nature. And Buddha nature can be conceived of in different ways. It can be seen as something that we have to develop, or it can be seen as something that's already there and will emerge if we unveil it, you could say, if we take off all the defilements that lay on top of it. So, I've talked about those lakshanas, the fact that the Buddha pointed out that life is unsatisfactory, and that has partly to do with having a human body and a human birth, partly not being control of outside our body, what happens to us in terms of other people or events, but also the greater cause of our suffering is because we don't just have a human birth, but actually we can't control things, and beyond that we add this second art. That's what I was trying to bring to mind. We bring to mind the second art. So the first art is things that we can't control, you know, like we drop a brick on our foot and it hurts, you know. So that is a pain that we can't avoid. But let's say we break a bone in our foot. What we add to that is all the fears that, you know, I won't be able to do what I want, the fears I might lose my job, the fear that my foot will always be deformed. So all these other anticipations, you could say, are what adds to the suffering. And we do that about everything. So a lot of what goes on in our mind is either about the past or the future. So we have fears, anxieties about the future, and we may have regrets or continuous thought patterns about the past. And of course we can't do anything about the past, it's gone, and we can't do anything about the future because it hasn't arrived. So it's like, how do we learn to be in the present time? And what we discover when we learn mindfulness, one of the things we discover is that the present is mostly a very pleasant place to be, because it's very immediate and it's very tactile. It's very sense driven, and if we can allow that to predominate rather than these thoughts about the past and the future, it's actually a very pleasurable place to be. So yes, we add to our suffering by what we don't know really, by what we can't validate by our senses. We add to it by all the worries. So the fact that of the second lakshana, that everything is impermanent, is often a cause of worry. It can lead to a lot of insecurity, but also the fact of impermanence is also a very wonderful thing, because we're, well, like we are at the moment, here we are in lockdown. Lockdown won't persist, you know. It looks like the vaccinations are working well, and, you know, this period of time will come to an end. So rather than having anxiety about it, rather than kicking against what we can't do or can't have, we could let go of that and see that this is a temporary time that is going to change. And I know that's harder to do for some people who are in very difficult circumstances and in much less fortunate circumstances than I'm in. I was thinking yesterday how, you know, if you were in a high-rise flat or a very confined space, particularly with a lot of children, you know, it could be an absolute nightmare. So I am very aware that, you know, that people are struggling in lots of different ways. So now I just want to come to the third lakshana, which is insubstantiality or no fixed self. So one of the things that we do all the time is what you might call selfing. And selfing is about over-identification, you could say, with our own preoccupations, our own needs, our own wants. And I said a bit in my other talk on psychology about what my own process had been in coming to Buddhism. Because yes, at one time I thought psychology might have all the answers to life. And then I found that that wasn't quite so. But why wasn't it so? Well, I think primarily it's because it doesn't have a spiritual dimension to it. I think that's one of the drawbacks. It gets over concerned with the self and very preoccupied with changing behaviour in a rather superficial way so that we can make samsara work for us, thinking that that can be done, thinking that we can make things okay. And I think it's good if we have a sort of what I call, and some of you have heard of this, a positive sense of hopelessness. So hopelessness sounds pretty awful, doesn't it? But actually there is a positive sense to this. It's like, if we can give up hope that we're going to make everything all right, or a hope that we're suddenly going to get rid of any depression, anxiety, worries, you know, if we can let go of that and think these are the circumstances we're living in, it's very liberating, because we stop thinking that we should somehow be different. We should somehow be able to get rid of all that. You know, it's not the case. We're carrying a lot of that. It doesn't mean things can't change, but like if we haven't got a basic level of acceptance to begin with, it's very hard to change, because we're always wanting to be somewhere else or somebody else. So, yes, you know, over the years that I've been counselling, I've realised that actually what a lot of people are wanting is to make samsara work for themselves, is to make things be all right, or to make somebody else change. The only person that we can change is ourself. So what is this selfing that we do all the time? Well, it's trying to create at least a place of safety, a place where we can feel okay. And because we're in relation to other people, and other people can be scary, and other people can be frightening, other people can be very different to us and annoy us. Other people have got their own ideas that we don't necessarily agree with. Other people we want attention from, or love from, or we want their approval. And all these things kind of describe a deep lack of confidence in ourselves, a deep lack of confidence to be ourselves, to show ourselves, to reveal ourselves. So, just to end with a very small example. So here I am talking to you, and I know that a lot of people that maybe have clicked on this video will have turned it off by now. They'll think it was pretty boring, or they won't agree with it. Other people might find it quite interesting. Other people might be a bit bored. I'm not concerned with that. I'm concerned with just talking to you, offering you something. And if you would like it, that's great. And if you wouldn't, that's fine too. So I haven't got anything invested in this being, a great video that people are going to all love. Maybe they won't. So it's like, I'm not going to stick myself in there. I've got a few things to say about what I've learned through my life, and you've learned things too that I can learn from. So yeah, there's obviously a lot more could be said about this, and I might carry on about it the next time, but for now, goodbye.